It was a cold Thursday morning, the kind where the sky still wore the pale gray of dawn, and the city hadn't yet decided whether to wake up or keep sleeping. The streets were wet with last night's rain, reflecting traffic lights like small broken pieces of glass. Daniel Harris sat behind the wheel of his old blue minivan, his fingers gripping the steering wheel as if it could hold his life together. His 8-year-old daughter, Lily, was in the back seat, half asleep with her backpack hugged to her chest. He was already 15 minutes late to drop her at school, and the fuel gauge needle hovered dangerously close to empty. He sighed. It was just another morning in a life that always seemed to run out of something. Then, the flashing blue and red lights appeared in his rearview mirror. His heart sank. He pulled over, already knowing what this meant. Another fine, another reminder that life had no mercy for people who were just trying their best. The police cruiser stopped behind him, and a young female officer stepped out. Her boots splashed lightly in the puddles as she approached, her expression calm but professional. Daniel rolled down his window, rain mist brushing his face. "License and registration, sir." He fumbled to find them, apologizing under his breath, his hands trembling slightly. She noticed the tiredness in his eyes, not the kind from lack of sleep, but from years of holding too much on his shoulders. "Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of good hearts meeting at the right time, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this one remind us that even in ordinary moments, extraordinary hearts collide." The officer's name was Olivia Brooks. She was known in her precinct for her strictness. She followed the rules, no exceptions. But something about this man didn't fit the usual pattern. His car wasn't in terrible shape, but it clearly hadn't seen maintenance in a while. A child's drawing was taped to the dashboard, a stick figure of a man holding a little girl's hand under a rainbow. "Daddy and me," it said. As she started writing the ticket, she glanced through the window and saw Lily's sleepy eyes meeting hers. There was something innocent yet weary about that gaze, something that pulled at her heart before she could stop it. Daniel was explaining quietly that he was running late, that his daughter's school had recently changed its drop-off rules, that his boss had warned him about being late again. But the truth was simple. His life was a fragile balance between jobs, bills, and a little girl who depended entirely on him. Olivia nodded, though she didn't respond. She'd heard it all before: excuses, apologies, sob stories. But as she wrote his name down, she noticed his wedding ring finger was bare. For a moment she wondered, where was his wife? When she handed him the ticket, their fingers brushed for a split second. It was accidental, yet something about it made her hesitate. He thanked her quietly, his voice carrying no resentment, just resignation. He started the engine. But before he could drive away, she said it, softly, almost without thinking. "If you weren't married," she began, then caught herself, forcing a small, awkward laugh. "Never mind." He looked up, puzzled. "I'm not," he said simply. "Not anymore." For a moment, silence filled the space between them, not awkward, but heavy with something unspoken. Then she nodded, took a step back, and let him go. But something about that man stayed in her mind long after she returned to her patrol car. His face, not handsome in the typical sense, but marked by quiet strength. His gentleness when he spoke to his daughter. His patience, even in frustration. It wasn't attraction, not at first. It was something deeper, recognition. Over the next few weeks, life went on. For Daniel, that meant juggling double shifts at the auto shop, attending school meetings, and falling asleep on the couch next to Lily as they watched old cartoons. Since his wife's death 3 years ago, everything had been about survival. Love, friendship, even self-care had become distant luxuries. And for Olivia, life meant routine, patrols, reports, lonely dinners, and an empty apartment filled with silence. She had joined the force after losing her fiancé in a car crash 5 years earlier, and since then, she'd built walls around her heart as solid as the badge on her chest. But fate, as it often does, wasn't finished with them yet. 2 weeks later, it was raining again, the kind of heavy, relentless rain that blurred the world into gray streaks. Olivia was driving home after her shift when she saw the same blue minivan on the side of the road, hazard lights blinking. Without thinking, she pulled over. Daniel was standing outside, trying to change a flat tire while Lily sat inside, shivering in her little pink jacket. The jack had slipped, and the car leaned dangerously low. He was soaked, his shirt clinging to him, his hands shaking from cold and exhaustion. She stepped out and called to him. He turned, surprised, and recognition flashed across his face. "You again," he said with a tired smile. "Looks like you could use a hand," she replied, kneeling beside the tire before he could protest. For the next half hour, they worked together in the pouring rain. When the tire was finally secure, she helped him back into the car and gave Lily her police jacket to keep warm. The girl's small voice whispered, "Thank you, officer lady," before curling up to sleep again. Something inside Olivia melted at that moment. She learned, as they sat there waiting for the rain to ease, that Daniel's wife had died in childbirth. That he had been raising Lily alone ever since, working 2 jobs, and that sometimes he barely had enough money for gas, like the day she'd pulled him over. He didn't tell the story for sympathy, it just came out, piece by piece, between pauses and shy smiles. When he laughed, it was the kind of laugh that tried to hide pain. And when she listened, it wasn't out of duty, it was because she genuinely cared. After that night, something unexplainable began to grow. They saw each other again, first by accident, then by intention. Coffee after shifts turned into short walks in the park. Olivia found herself bringing small gifts for Lily, coloring books, stickers, sometimes just a smile. And Daniel found himself looking forward to her company more than he'd thought possible. She wasn't just a police officer anymore. She was a light in a life that had known too much darkness. Still, there was hesitation, from both sides. Daniel feared love because he'd lost it once before, and Olivia feared it because she didn't believe she deserved it again. But every time they met, every laugh they shared, every small moment of kindness chipped away at the walls around their hearts. One afternoon, months later, Daniel was late picking Lily up from school because his boss had made him stay overtime. He arrived to find Olivia waiting with her. She had stopped by after a routine patrol and found the little girl sitting alone on the steps. That evening, as they all sat together at a small diner, something shifted. Lily looked at Olivia and asked, "Are you my new mommy?" The world seemed to stop. Daniel froze, unsure what to say. But Olivia reached across the table, smiled softly, and said, "Not yet, sweetheart. But maybe someday." That night, Daniel walked her to her car under the streetlight. The air was cool, the world quiet. He finally said the words he had been holding back for months. "You changed my life, Olivia. That day you pulled me over. I thought it was just another bad day. But it was the start of something good." Tears welled up in her eyes, not of sadness, but of relief, of joy, of healing. She smiled, touching his cheek gently, and whispered, "You were never just another driver to me, Daniel." From that day, their lives intertwined like threads that had always been meant to meet. She became part of his small world, reading bedtime stories with Lily, laughing over burnt pancakes on Sunday mornings, and finding joy in the simplicity of love that asked for nothing in return.